Hi, I'm Jessica Monroe, and on my 28th birthday, my phone didn't ring. No calls, no texts, no family showing up. But when I opened Facebook, I froze, because the celebration I thought I'd been forgotten for wasn't forgotten at all. It was stolen. It was late, almost midnight, the kind of late where the silence in my small apartment felt heavy, pressing down on me. My 28th birthday was practically over. Done. Finished. Another year. Another year that felt just like the last 10. Unseen. Before we dive in, make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and drop a comment below telling me where in the world are you watching from. I love seeing how far this story travels. The day had started with a flicker of hope, a small, stupid, stubborn thing that refused to die, no matter how many times it was starved of air. I woke up, and the first thing I did was check my phone. Nothing. It's early, I told myself. Mom always calls around 9. 9 o'clock came and went. I busied myself making coffee, tidying the already tidy kitchen. At 10, I checked again. Still nothing. Maybe they were planning a surprise. Maybe they were all gathering somewhere, getting ready to call me over. The thought was a warm little spark in the growing coldness of my chest. By lunchtime, the spark had faded to a dull ember. I ate a sandwich alone at my small kitchen table, the silence broken only by the hum of the refrigerator. I scrolled through my contacts. My thumb hovered over my mom's name. Then my dad's. Then Sarah's. I could call them. I could say, "Hey, just calling to say hi." But I knew what would happen. They'd be distracted. "Oh, Jessica, hi. Is something wrong? We're a little busy." And the hollow feeling would just get worse, so I didn't call. The afternoon crawled by. I tried to work, but the code on my screen blurred together. Every few minutes, my eyes would drift to my phone. A flicker of hope. A small, stupid hope. It never lasted. Each check brought another wave of hollow disappointment. It wasn't just about the gifts or the cake. It was about being remembered, about mattering enough for a single, simple text message, "Happy birthday." As evening fell, the last of the embers died. There would be no surprise. There would be no call. It was just another day. I made a simple dinner for myself. I watched a movie I'd seen a dozen times, just for the comfort of knowing how it would end. No surprises. And now, here it was, almost midnight. The day was over. I scrolled through my phone one last time, a pointless ritual of self-inflicted pain. My thumb felt numb. My heart felt heavy, like a stone in my chest. And that's when I saw it. Facebook. My cousin, Lisa, had posted. Lisa always posted everything. Usually it was annoying. Tonight, it was a punch to the gut. Photos filled the screen. So many photos. Bright balloons in shades of gold and white. A huge cake, layered and fancy, with delicate frosting flowers. Bright, colorful decorations strung across a room I recognized as my parents' living room. My stomach dropped. I stared at the pictures. People were laughing. My whole family, smiling and joyful. Everyone looked so happy. But it wasn't for me. It was my birthday. Today. It was supposed to be my day. But this party, this celebration, it was all for her. It was my sister's spotlight. Again. Always. I saw my mom and dad. They were smiling so big. Bigger than I'd seen them smile in a long time. My aunts and uncles were there. My grandmother, who I hadn't seen in months. My cousins, too. They were all crowded around my sister, Sarah. She was posing, hand on her hip, flashing that perfect, practiced smile. She held up the cake. It was white and gold, elegant and expensive. It said, clear as day, in beautiful swirling script, Happy 28th. My breath hitched. My heart actually hurt, a physical ache that radiated through my chest. It was my 28th birthday, not Sarah's. Sarah was 2 years younger than me. She was turning 26 in a few months. But the cake, the caption, the date, they didn't just forget me. They didn't just ignore my birthday. They replaced me. They took my age, my milestone, and they gave it to her. My chest felt so tight, it was hard to breathe. I leaned back against my couch, the phone still clutched in my hand, my knuckles white. My mind went to all the other times, a flood of memories, each one a small cut, all bleeding together now into one gaping wound. I remembered saving for months when Sarah graduated from college. I was working extra shifts at a diner, my feet aching at the end of every night. I wanted to buy her a good graduation gift, something special, a classic, elegant watch. I spent almost all my savings on it. At her graduation party, I gave her the box. She opened it, glanced at the watch, and said, "Oh, thanks, Jess." Then she put it aside to open the next gift. Later, I overheard my mom telling my aunt, "That was so thoughtful of Jessica, but you know Sarah really wanted that new laptop." Sarah got the laptop, of course, from my parents. My gift was put in a drawer. I never saw her wear it, not once. I remembered Thanksgiving, just last year. I'd arrived at my parents' house early to help. I peeled potatoes for an hour. I chopped vegetables. I set the entire table for 20 people, making sure every fork and knife was perfectly aligned. I was in the kitchen pulling the hot rolls out of the oven when Sarah made her grand entrance, an hour late. She was carrying a single store-bought pumpkin pie. "Sarah, darling, you made it," my mother exclaimed, rushing to hug her. "And you brought a pie. You're a lifesaver." At dinner, my father made a toast to my wife for this amazing meal and to Sarah for bringing the perfect dessert. No one mentioned the hours I'd spent in the kitchen. I was just part of the scenery, a helpful shadow. Now it was my turn, my 28th birthday, and I was erased. Like I didn't even exist. Like I was never part of this family at all. I kept looking at the photos, scrolling with a morbid fascination. More of them kept popping up as other relatives tagged themselves. My mom had posted a caption under a photo of her and Sarah. "So proud of our shining star. 28 looks amazing on you," she wrote. Not, "Happy birthday, Sarah." Not, "So glad we could celebrate Sarah's milestone." No. It was a lie, a direct, intentional lie, and Sarah was in the comments. People were writing, "Happy birthday, Sarah," and "You look great," and "So much love for you." Sarah just thanked them. "Thank you, Aunt Carol. So sweet, Cousin Mark." She didn't correct anyone. Not one family member said, "Wait, it's Jessica's birthday, not Sarah's." Not one. They wanted me gone, out of the picture completely. They wanted me to be invisible. They had always made me feel small. But this was a new level of cruel. This was deliberate, a public announcement of my unimportance. A wave of nausea washed over me. I remembered arguments from childhood. "Why can't you be more like Sarah, Jessica? Sarah got an A on her test. Why didn't you? Sarah is so charming. You're so quiet." It had been a slow chipping away, years of it, every comment, every comparison, every time I was overlooked. It wasn't always obvious to outsiders, but I felt it. I lived it. It was my daily bread. I thought about calling them, screaming, demanding an explanation. My hand shook as I pictured the conversation. They would deny it. They would gaslight me. "Oh, we thought you knew. It was just a small gathering. We didn't want to bother you. Sarah has been having a hard time. She needed a little boost." They always had an excuse. and I would end up feeling worse, like I was the one who was unreasonable, dramatic, and overly sensitive. I didn't yell. I didn't cry, not out loud anyway. Inside, a quiet storm raged. A cold, hard knot of anger formed where the hollow ache had been. I didn't write anything on Facebook. I didn't beg for recognition. I didn't explain. I just closed the app. My thumb hovered over the delete button for Facebook. I almost pressed it, but then I stopped. No, not yet. I put my phone down. I went to my laptop. It felt like walking through water, every step heavy with years of disappointment. I opened a folder. It was hidden deep within my files, named something innocuous like recipes. It had been there for 2 years. Startup paperwork, business plans, financial projections, market analysis, customer surveys, every single detail I had poured my life into. My family thought I was jobless. They made comments all the time. "When are you going to get a real job, Jessica? Sarah is so successful, she just got promoted again. You spend so much time on that computer. What are you even doing? It's not healthy." They called me lazy. They called me unfocused. They had no idea what I was building in the quiet hours of my nights, in the silence of my forgotten life. I had been working on a tech solution, an app that connected local artisans with global markets, using a new kind of ethical sourcing algorithm. It was complex. It was innovative. It was everything they thought I wasn't. I had used every ounce of my savings, every extra hour, every bit of the quiet resolve that had been forged in the fires of their neglect. I worked in my small apartment, fueled by cheap coffee and a burning need to prove myself. Not to them, I realized with sudden clarity. To me. The memory of their dismissal was the fuel. When I told them I was leaving my stable, boring office job to work on a project, they had laughed. Not a mean laugh, but a patronizing one, which was so much worse. "Oh, Jessica and her little computer project," my father had said with a chuckle, "as long as it keeps you busy." They never asked what it was, not once. Their disinterest was a wall I couldn't break through, so I stopped trying. I just built my world behind it. The next morning, I woke up with a strange calm. The anger was still there, a dull throb, but it was mixed with something new, a clear, cold purpose. I made one quiet call. It was to my lawyer, Mr. Sharma. He was a kind, older man who actually listened when I spoke. We had been waiting for this, for the final signature from the venture capital firm. "Jessica," he said, his voice warm and professional, "they're ready. The board approved it late last night. The investors are thrilled. You did it." It was quick, to the point, just like my new life was becoming. Then, later that day, I went to his office. I sat across from him at a large, polished mahogany table. My hand didn't shake as I picked up the heavy, expensive pen. I signed the papers. The ink was dark and permanent. It was real. My company. My idea. My blood, sweat, and tears. It had just closed a $12 million funding deal. I didn't post about it. I didn't tell anyone. I didn't call my family. I didn't brag. I just signed the papers. Mr. Sharma congratulated me warmly. He said I was going to change things, that my vision was remarkable. I just nodded. I knew something then. Something deep in my bones. Power doesn't need to shout. It doesn't need balloons or a big cake or Facebook likes. It only needs to exist. And now it did. Inside me. All around me. The 2 weeks that followed were a blur of activity. Hiring staff, securing office space. The work was all-consuming, and for the first time, it felt wonderful. It was a shield. During that time, my mother texted me once. "Need you to pick up Grandma's prescription on Thursday." Not "how are you?" Not "we missed you." Just an order. I replied, "Sorry, I'm not available." Her response was instant. "You're never available. It's not that hard, Jessica." I didn't reply. The silence was a boundary she didn't know how to cross. Then came the inevitable family dinner, a cousin's birthday. I almost didn't go. But a part of me, that cold, quiet part, knew I had to. I needed to close this chapter. I walked in, the usual scene, loud, chaotic, full of family members who barely looked at me when I spoke, but hung on Sarah's every word. It was awkward, like always. Sarah was talking, bragging. "My perfect 28th birthday party," she said, beaming. She was telling a long, exaggerated story about it to a captive audience. My parents nodded along, beaming back at her. My aunts and uncles chimed in. "It was such a lovely party, Sarah. You deserved it." I was eating my food, mostly listening, mostly invisible, just as I always was. Then, my cousin's husband, Samir, spoke up. He works in finance. He's always been kind to me, in his quiet way. He looked at me, his eyes bright with genuine interest. "Jessica," he said, his voice cutting through Sarah's story like a sharp knife. "I saw your company featured in the business paper this morning. That's incredible news. The article mentioned your funding round. Congratulations on the $12 million deal. That's truly impressive." The table went silent. It wasn't a slow quiet. It was immediate, like someone had hit a mute button. Forks stopped clanking. Conversations died. All eyes turned to me. My aunt's hand, holding a wine glass, froze halfway to her mouth. My parents looked confused. Their smiles faltered. Sarah, who had just been about to take a bite of her cake, dropped her fork. It made a loud clatter on the ceramic plate. No one said anything for a long moment. It was the first time I had ever truly had their undivided attention. And it wasn't because I was in trouble or needed something. It was because I was someone. My dad finally looked at me. His voice was low, almost a whisper. "Jessica, is this true? A company? $12 million? He sounded almost afraid, like he was looking at a stranger. I met his gaze. My voice was calm, steady, stronger than I had ever heard it. "Yes, Dad, it's true. It's a tech company. And yes, we closed the $12 million funding deal the same week you all pretended I didn't exist. The week you gave my birthday to Sarah." The words were quiet, but they landed with the force of a physical blow. I watched the truth sink in. I saw the flicker of understanding, then shame in my father's eyes. I saw my mother's face drain of color, her mouth slightly open. Sarah's perfect, practiced smile had vanished completely. She just stared at her plate. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't cry. I simply looked at Samir, offering him a small, genuine smile. "Thank you for the congratulations, Samir," I said. My voice was soft, but it carried across the silent table. Then I pushed my chair back from the table. The sound of its legs scraping against the floor was unnaturally loud in the silence. I stood up. I didn't say anything else. I didn't look back at them. I didn't offer an explanation. I didn't offer forgiveness. I just walked out of the dining room, out of the house, out of the lingering shadow they had cast over my life for so long. The family who had erased me, the ones who had pretended I didn't exist, now they couldn't stop whispering my name. I could hear it as I walked away. "Jessica, Jessica, Jessica." Their voices were low, confused, a little bit stunned. They saw me differently now, but it was too late. It was all too late. For them, not for me. I went home. My small apartment felt different, lighter. It felt like my own kingdom. I didn't need a big party. I didn't need their validation. I celebrated quietly. I bought a single cupcake from the bakery, my favorite flavor, red velvet. I lit my favorite candle, a small vanilla-scented one. I sat at my kitchen table, just me. My signed funding papers were right beside me, a tangible symbol of my victory. I whispered to myself, "Happy birthday, Jess." My voice was soft, full of a quiet, fierce pride. You gave yourself the best gift of all, freedom. And it was, without a doubt, the best birthday I had ever had.